Welcome to Undercover TV. Today we have a special presentation of the documentary Wasted Lives. This documentary takes you behind the scenes to expose the truth about the mistreatment of animals in scientific experiments. Some of the images are graphic and viewer discretion is advised.
Every year in Britain, around 3 million animals are killed in vivisection. Many millions more are killed as surplus. Worldwide, it's a staggering 100 million. Scientists say they don't suffer. It's not true. They are cut open or have limbs amputated to see how their bodies work. They are slowly poisoned, infected with lethal viruses, brain damaged and starved in psychology tests. They are burnt or scalded. Surgically mutilated in medical experiments. Why such suffering? They claim it's to ensure the products we use and the things we eat are safe. And they say we'll die from terrible diseases unless animals are used to find cures. Everyday products are tested on animals. It's called toxicity testing, which means poisoning. There are no anesthetics to stop the pain. Products are sprayed, injected or force-fed to animals and the effects monitored, for months even. This is the Draize test, used for testing chemicals. Rabbits are used because they have big eyes and no tears to wash away the chemicals, or the pain. Most experiments are done without anesthetics, and there's no guarantee of painkillers when the animals come round. Even when they are anaesthetised, it's often not done by a professional anaesthetist. Carrying out brain surgery on a monkey involves great pain. They say it's mostly rats and mice who are used, as if they don't feel pain. In fact, many different animals are used. Including, of course, dogs. Beagles are used because they are friendly and trusting.
It's wet and I shouldn't sit back too far, he's pissed everywhere. You've had your shot, fucking sit still!
What a way to repay them.
I haven't got the patience today, I really haven't. Oh, shut up. Fucking hell! I'm really getting fucking mad with you!
Then, of course, there are monkeys. Many are imported from abroad, and some are caught in the wild. Just imagine the fear and confusion these animals suffer when they're torn away from their family groups. These barren cages are the only home they'll know until they are experimented on and killed. They are all eventually killed. Not all researchers are deliberately cruel. They become hardened, and the animals become little more than research tools.
What's going on here?
She doesn't look the least bit
There she goes. There she goes. She's on TV.
Oh my God.
Holding her monkey.
Look, yeah!
No, go.
That's like a cat.
Regulations aren't enforced, and the main purpose of the law is to protect researchers from being prosecuted for cruelty, not to protect the animals.
I think some people have asserted that animals don't really feel pain as an argument for doing experiments on them, but that has to be classed as nonsense. They have all the biological and physical characteristics in place that I have for pain, and they have the chemoreceptors there that can do the job, so I'm sure they feel pain.
I feel that doing animal experiments, inflicting pain on animals, must have a desensitizing and a brutalizing effect on people. Despite this, none of us protested for a moment when a rabbit was battered to death in front of a class, and this had a very subtle and I think very damaging effect on us as future doctors.
I don't think the science is very sound. I don't think that the morals and the ethics have been worked out as well as they should have been. And to think that animals are lower than we are and therefore we can do what we like is a very troublesome argument.
Who would you choose? A rat or your mother? Powerful argument that, isn't it? A rat or your mum, dad, or little sister? But it's not a real choice. It's science fiction.
The animal experimentation industry has told us for years that we must choose between the life of a rat or the life of a loved one, but that's simply not true. What we have to choose is good science or bad science, and animal experimentation is just bad science.
Scientists claim they can only find new safe drugs by testing them on animals. But animals are not the same as us, and their reactions to drugs are often very different to ours. Morphine puts us to sleep, but excites cats. We pop aspirin for aches and pains. It causes birth defects in mice and rats. The contraceptive pill can cause blood clots in humans. It has the opposite effect in dogs. Dogs don't suffer heart disease when they eat fatty meat, yet they're still used for research into the problem. Rats and mice get different types of cancer from humans, but still they're used for cancer research. It's crazy, but researchers try to recreate human problems in animals who never suffer from them. To mimic heart disease in beagles, they tighten a wire around a blood vessel leading to the heart. They inject cancer cells, sometimes directly into the eye or brain. For arthritis research, animals' joints are injected with chemicals to cause crippling swellings. So it's not surprising that drugs developed on animals often go wrong. Thalidomide was meant to cure morning sickness, but caused dreadful birth defects. Eraldin was introduced to relieve heart conditions, but caused blindness. Oprum was meant to relieve arthritis, but led to liver damage. And there are plenty of others. Testing is so unreliable that prescription drugs are now the 4th biggest cause of death in the USA. If we'd relied on rat tests, we'd still believe that humans didn't need vitamin C, that smoking doesn't cause cancer, and that alcohol doesn't cause liver damage. Heart bypass surgery was put on hold for years because it didn't work on dogs. It was denied for decades that asbestos could poison humans because it didn't poison animals. Researchers refused to believe that benzene could cause cancer in humans because it didn't cause it in animals. Polio researchers were misled for years about how we catch the disease because they were working on monkeys. We're now promised that with the mapping of the human genome, the DNA blueprint for human life, genetic engineering will provide a cure for practically all our diseases. It's much more likely to make fortunes for private companies. Scientists are a long, long way from understanding how DNA functions. But it won't stop them from cruelly maiming more and more animals. The favourite process is to knock out a single gene or introduce a foreign one. They have no idea what will happen, which is why mice have been born with grossly deformed organs. One of the promises is a cure for cancer. Yet after decades of animal experiments, cancer cases are increasing, not declining. One answer, they claim, is to make animals more like humans by adding a gene or two. They said this would help research into cystic fibrosis, a human lung condition. But genetically altering mice to mimic the problem has created bowel disorders, not lung disease. So, despite the promises, no miracle cures are in sight.
The only way we're going to cure the diseases that plague mankind is through human-based research or technology.
The animal experiments are totally irrelevant because the species differences between different animals are so vast in every field that you cannot apply the results from one species to another. You cannot apply the results on a mouse to a rat or vice versa. You cannot apply the results on one type of mouse to another type of mouse. And you certainly cannot apply those results from a mouse to a human being.
Using animals as models for human beings in research and in safety testing and in drug development has meant that we have sometimes got the wrong answers, that there are medicines that might have been useful in people but were poisonous to animals and so they weren't developed. I think it means that toxic chemicals have been used because they appeared safe in animals but weren't for humans. And I think it's delayed medical progress.
Animal experiments are not predictive for what will occur in human beings. There is no one animal or combination of animals that gives you the right result a majority of the time. You might as well flip a coin.
So why do they still do it if it doesn't work? Generations of students have been taught it's a good thing. Experimenting on animals and publishing the results is the way scientists build their careers. Now the whole thing is like a huge juggernaut, extremely difficult to stop. But one of the main reasons for vivisection is money. A huge industry of researchers, cage manufacturers, animal suppliers, feed producers, and instrument makers profit from it. Pharmaceutical companies do it because it's the easiest way to get approval from regulators for new products. And they do it because there are huge profits to be made from drugs. They've built fortunes on animal experiments. Why would they want to change? There are over 18,000 medicines on the market. When one company produces a successful drug, other companies try to copy it. It's got nothing to do with need. Instead of killer diseases such as cancer disappearing, they're increasing. Something's wrong.
If you're a senior scientist and you've spent your life, your professional life, putting electrodes in animals' brains, and somebody like me comes along and says, now I want you to stop doing that and learn all about brain scanning and study human beings, well, that person is going to say, but hang on a minute, I'm an expert in what I do. You're asking me to go back to the classroom.
There's a whole movement to keep animal experimenting alive, I think, because there are a lot of livings that depend on that for a start. There are a lot of academic careers that depend on it. There's a lot of vested interest in terms of direction that people have promoted animal experiments, and to try to say now that that might be wrong would be a very painful decision to make.
The drug companies obviously are there to make money. And to make money, they have to introduce new drugs.
Universities, pharmaceutical companies, drug suppliers, people who sell the actual mice and rats and dogs to the laboratories, many, many people profit from animal experimentation.
Major medical advances have come about through studying people, not animals. Sewerage, clean water, and decent housing transformed Britain and did more to lower death rates than all the drugs and vaccines put together. It was done by studying how people lived and improving their living conditions. It's called epidemiology. That's how the link between smoking and cancer was established, by studying smokers, not forcing animals to inhale tobacco smoke. Our knowledge of heart disease, cancer, and AIDS also came from studying people's lives. We didn't need animal experiments to tell us that environmental pollution causes ill health. Most big killer diseases can be prevented, but the search for cures soaks up almost all the available money. Only a tiny fraction is spent on prevention. Another important way of learning about disease is to study patients who were ill and under treatment. These are called clinical studies. Computer models can replace dissection in schools and universities. We're made up of cells, and testing a few of them can often show how our whole body might react. Human cancer cells are increasingly being used for cancer research in preference to mice. Using healthy volunteers in what's called drug trials gives valuable results on the effects of those drugs. Carrying out research on dead bodies also provides important information. Whenever researchers have been made to look for alternatives to animals, they've found them. The ultimate defense of vivisection is that they have to test their products on a whole body. We agree. The problem is, they've chosen the wrong body.
Some scientists say you can't study a whole body in a test tube. Therefore, we will always need animal experiments. My response to that is, no, you can't study a whole animal in a test tube, but if you combine test tube experiments with computer modelling, which could scale up those results to the living organism, and you do safe and ethical studies in human beings who are whole bodies, then I believe by a combination of approaches we will be able to replace animal experiments.
Drugs, medicine, surgery can do so much. They can help to pick up the pieces, they may prolong life a little. But the most important area is that of prevention. And in prevention, animals do not help us. We must look at the human situation, the human diet, the human way of life.
Since I was registered as blind in the middle 70s, I've never been asked to take part in any research project. My condition has never been monitored. And it seems incredible to me that people with illnesses and disabilities are just a wasted resource in science.
I don't think I would lose anything as a vet if animal experiments stopped tomorrow. I would be personally very comforted. I would feel much more comfortable about what our human race is doing to animals. But I don't think I would suffer as a vet if it stopped.
When I see people with disabilities being used to promote vivisection, it makes me very sad. Animal research has been conducted looking into the causes of my condition, RP, for over 70 years now, the first experiments taking place in the 1930s. And here I am in 2000, still waiting for the promised cure.
From a scientific perspective, animal experimentation simply does not work. Animal experimentation does not help human beings who are sick get better. Animal experimentation does not help prevent disease or cure disease.
The life of an animal is just as important to it as your life is to you. It doesn't want to be caged, hurt and killed any more than you do. It isn't a choice between animals and people. It's a choice between good science and pointless cruelty.
It's usually pretty hard for an ordinary person to get inside medical research facilities. They don't want the general public really to know what's going on. So much of this research isn't leading to anything that can possibly be helpful. And to allow such barbaric conditions to continue is a very black mark against humanity.
It is time for caring people everywhere to treat animals as more than mere property.
To be bred, bought, and sold at an owner's whim.
I urge you to adopt your next dog or cat
at a local shelter or humane society.
Please be a guardian, not an owner.
I'm going to make my body temperature about 25 degrees.
Now sit down and go. That just it off. Nice little, yeah, take a shower.
Come on, buddy. Good boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to talk to them too. I'm pretty.
I was not allowed to look at those animals. And you know what? Either death or nothing.
Let me go get this stethoscope. I'll be back in a minute.
Play my thing, I'll knock you out. Ouch, you little bitch.
Dickhead today. Let's go.
Come on.
There. You gonna kill him? I'll ram it down his fucking throat.
Coming for you again today. Yeah. Yep. You again today. I'm gonna kick your ass again.
You ain't good damn teeth, though. There. Hey, look at that.
I'm John Feldman from Goldfinger. You know, we've got to wake up to what's being done to animals in research labs. Isolated in tiny cages, experimented on multiple times. These monkeys are suffering, and they're going crazy. Please help them. Call In Defense of Animals today.
In the next 30 seconds, another 10,000 animals will be forced into factory farms. They will suffer painful mutilations. They'll be packed into cages so small they can't flap their wings. They'll be crammed into crates so narrow they can't turn around. When we buy meat, eggs, or dairy products, we support this cruelty.
Thanks for watching Undercover TV. If you would like more information about Undercover TV, please visit the In Defense of Animals website at idausa.org. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Undercover TV.